God couldn't let them be victorious with that. So had Joshua foolishly and pridefully thinking that he was the one causing the winds, sent his entire regiment in there, they'd have all died. But Joshua was a man of God. He stopped and said, Lord, search us. Reveal to us what the problem is, because you made a promise to us. I believe your promise. You said we'd win all of these. These would be very easy, and that one's not easy. We lost some men. Something must have happened on our part. Show us what that is. And he did, and they revealed Achan, and they dealt with Achan, and of course you know the story. So when we see God leading you into a situation, clearly taking the promised land was something God promised. How does it not happen? The only way it doesn't happen is disobedience. That's the only way it can't happen, because God's put the fix in. As long as they are obedient, it's done. It is completely done. God will take care of it. But if they're disobedient, then even though God said the victory would be yours if, you didn't do the if, so the victory is not yours. They've proven that. So, Joshua was probably able to count it all joy. I think Joshua understood. I don't think Sarah did. Sarah was anxious in their situation. It caused great stress and fear for Sarah, embarrassment even. She felt inadequate because she made a decision as one who would be. She didn't wait on the Lord. She didn't allow the Lord to work and let patience have her perfect work so that she'd be lacking nothing. If we believe those words, then we have to look at our scenario. Let's see what our scenario is. When we look at Medellin as a church, and we look at the trials and tribulations of Medellin within the last, let's say, 6 months, and we begin to look at how Medellin got to this point, because I contend that this scenario for Medellin is different from Medellin in the past. When Medellin had a minister that left before, either he left on his own and there was something going on, or Medellin fired that minister for something going on. But either way, there was some turmoil, there had to be some kind of recovery, there was always something negative surrounding the departure. But we didn't have that this time. Circumstances with my dad and things like that led to me leaving. We're not mad, we're not at odds with each other, there was no controversy like that. So we enjoyed 7 years together in a long-lasting, eternal relationship. But now, Medellin finds itself in the wilderness again. But how'd you get here? Did you get to the wilderness because of something different, and God leads you here? I contend to you, my brothers and sisters, that God led you here. Now, if we start thinking of what God said in his scriptures, like, I will never leave you nor forsake you, I want you to answer this question to yourself. No matter what things look like, if God led us here, would he see us through it? No matter what it looked like. Do I need to worry about what's going on in a men's meeting? Do I need to worry about who's leading who and who's doing what? Those are worries for me? Not when God's led me here. Because if I think it is a worry for me, then I believe that man could do something that would checkmate God. That doesn't even sound right, does it? Can man come up with something that God didn't know he was going to come up with? Or can man thwart a plan of God's? Impossible. Impossible. Now I ask you, what if certain plans that were in place were actually going the way God wanted it to go? If that were true, then my kicking against it wouldn't put me against some man's plan. It put me against God. Who wants to stand against God? So there's some responsibility of a congregation when you get into the wilderness this way, and the great way I'm talking about is when you're led there by God. When God says, Medellin, I'm not done with you. I have some things I need to teach you. I need to strip you of some things so that you can rely on me, so that you can trust in me, so that you can study and learn more about me. And then when you do that, I will give you what you stand in need of. But you got to go through the wilderness to get it. You got to bond together. You got to be connected together as the family of God. You got to prove to me that you love one another. I want to throw some situations and circumstances at you, and I want to see how you're going to respond to them. If you are who you say you are, if you say you love me, then I want you to do the things I've asked you to do. That's what I think God has said to Medellin. I think God has shown Medellin some things and has given you situations For you to be perfected. For you to be perfected. To see what judgment you will use in dealing with situations. To see when trouble comes, will you run or will you stand and defend? Will you sit with him? Will you walk with him? Will you stand with him? And all of the things that have happened from the time that I left up until this point, I am saying God wanted them to happen. And I believe with all of my heart, he wanted to see what you're going to do. To send you a preacher is the easiest thing on the planet. You guys didn't know I was coming. Did you say I want to pray for a handsome black man to come and be our preacher? Nobody said that, so that's what I mean. And then here I go. You know, so the idea is you didn't know that was happening. So how do you know what's coming? How do you know what's coming? The Bible tells us that there is a way that man thinketh to be right, but that way ends in destruction. I say to you today to take heed to what the proverbial writer wrote in Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. Trust in Don Berkey alone. Is that in there? Trust in Don Medford and he will direct your paths. Is that in there? Trust in Clyde Mayberry. Woo-hoo! That's my boy. Is that in there? That's not in there either. Look at Linda gonna say now. I think it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge him. I got to spend some time with that. And he says to acknowledge him. He's not talking just, hey God. That's an acknowledgement. He's not talking about you giving a shout out. That's not what he's talking about. What he really wants to see is that when trouble comes, you are the ye who are spiritual. So whether it is somebody walks away with an attitude or somebody has a problem with something, the one who's supposed to restore them is not just the men, it's not just women, it's the ye who are spiritual. God commands you to restore such a one in the spirit of meekness. Galatians 6 and 1. If something is not right, you're not supposed to turn your back on it. You're supposed to acknowledge God in it. And how do you do that? You speak the truth in love, Ephesians 4:15. Yeah, but that'll make somebody mad. Well, they'll be okay, because they'll have to wrestle with God about that one. Your job is to give them the truth. Peter told us, if any man speaks, let him speak as the oracles of God. If anyone ministers, let him do it to the ability that God has given him. So whether you are a Bible-toting fool and you can quote all the scriptures you want, or you can just tell somebody the right thing to do, you're supposed to open your mouth. And our fellowship dictates that we do that. If we say we're the body of Christ, that's how we live. That's our creed. Our creed is to speak the truth in love. Our creed is to prove to the world we're Jesus' disciples by loving one another, not running away from trouble and problems. That wasn't his expectation for us. We have not so learned Christ. But he did say, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. We can't take for granted the situation that we're in. Can't take it for granted. We can't look at the situation as people without faith. But we really need to be counting in joy. We really need to not be saying, what's the church going to do for me? We need to say, what I'm going to do for the church. God needs me to step up, so what am I going to do? Hey, I don't know a lot of Bible, but hey, I'm here. What do you need me to do? That could be said. Hey, I do know Bible. Let me take that class. Hey, I think we need this at the church. Let me spearhead that. That's what God is saying. Whatever it is that he's given you the ability to do, you're supposed to be doing. And that doesn't matter who's here. Whether you got a minister or not, you're supposed to be doing that. God will give you what you need when you need it. But he's not going to give it to you before you're ready for it. And that's the key. You got to be ready. And when you're ready, or if you get ready, then he'll give it to you. But sometimes as people, unfortunately, we cut off God's blessings to us. Because of our pride, because of a number of reasons, we cut off the blessings. God has blessings stored up for us that we haven't gotten yet because of us.